Greetings all. Thank you to those who have come physically and for those who join us on Facebook Live or eventually recorded and put up on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in and studying the book of Job with us. This week we are in chapter 17, which is the end of Job's second response to Eliphaz and his other friends. So we're going to be in Job chapter 17 tonight. As always, we invite you, if you're in Western New York, to come and join us here in Youngstown at River Life Chapel, 3474 Creek Road, Youngstown, New York. We do this Bible study almost every week. And if you don't have a home church, and you're in Western New York, join us Sunday mornings at 10:30 a.m., 3474 Creek Road, Youngstown, New York. So, Lord willing, we hope to see you. But if not, and you tune in, be blessed as we study God's Word. All right, so Job chapter 17. If somebody would like to read the first two verses. Okay.
My spirit is broken, my days are extinguished. The grave is ready for me. Surely mockers are with me, and my eye gazes on their provocation.
All right. So, whatever translation that was, says, my spirit is broken. King James says, my breath is corrupt. And so obviously I kind of looked that up, but sounds a little different when in the English translations. But basically breath corrupt is generally, when I looked up the definition, is strength or spirit is spent or broken. So it's Old English, Hebrew poetry being translated into different English.
To me, it almost sounded like he had bad breath.
It probably is that too. I mean, I think it doesn't right come to mind, but I do think there's another place in Job that kind of reads the same way, that his breath is, everything about him's rotten, his breath including. I mean, it would be surprising if that were not the case. So his spirit is broken, and that makes sense because breath and spirit, they come from kind of the same, well, in Greek anyhow, is pneuma, that kind of word. I did not look it up in the Hebrew, so I can't speak to that, but it makes sense to me. Broken spirit, corrupt breath, when you look it up, it kind of makes some sense more. So Job's continuing from the previous chapter in hopelessness and defeat. We're going to see as we go through this chapter the struggle between hope and hopelessness. In this chapter, there's not too much hope, but there is a few verses that show a glimmer of hope. The rest is pretty dire. So then he says, the graves are ready for me. So he's feeling he doesn't have too much longer. I mean, you can't be going through what he's going through and, expect to live long and prosper. So he's expecting the graves. The graves are ready for him. He says, my days are extinct. I looked up extinct, and his life is like light at the end of the day. The light is extinguishing. So that's kind of what that poetry is saying on that. Verse 2, are there not mockers with me? And doth not mine eye continue in their provocation? So basically, the accusations and lack of sympathy from Job's friends increase his agony. Job is constantly seeing their incessant provocation to make bitter. Again, this is kind of Job's accusing his friends of intentionally agonizing him. Because, and I looked when I'm looking this up, the intentionality of what Job is saying is portrayed here. So are not mockers with me? Well, they're intentionally mocking. And his eye continues, does not my eye continue in their provocation? So he's constantly seeing their attacks. So it's with friends like that, if you're in a hospital and you have visitors like this, you're probably going to ring the bell and call the nurse and have them thrown out. Tell them never to let these guys in again. Job didn't have that luxury, but this is what he's going through.
And I kind of wonder if he did have that kind of luxury, which he didn't. But if he did, he might not even be able to go for it.
Barely press the bell. Yeah, if he could. He's in rough shape. Okay, so that's the beginning. Job's brokenness continues in that section. Yeah.
For me, kind of like the only comfort I really get from reading the book of Job, because of all this back and forth accusing of him. The comfort that I get is understanding that this is how Satan works. He's always using something to attack us or to discourage us. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. So the idea is that one of the comforts from the book of Job is learning the wiles of the enemy. That is, I'm surely convinced that's part of why Job's in the Bible. To teach us. I mean, where else in the Bible, in the Garden of Eden, you get an interaction with Satan, the temptation of Jesus in the wilderness, you get you get a picture of Satan's schemes and that. But Job here, there's a conversation with God, one I'm sure Satan wished he didn't have to have, but so we get a picture, a better understanding of how Satan works in the book of Job, which should be a comfort to us because we also see how God works. We also learn how not to be friends. We also learn, how to not, yeah.
Oh, no, I was going to say, no, I was just thinking to sometimes stand up for yourself.
Yeah,
and
yep.
what you believe in.
Yep, and that's part of what's going to come in this chapter. There's a few verses where that Job again. But yeah, standing up for yourself. Standing up for yourself kind of against the enemy, of course, and against the people who are representing him. Part of Job's problem, and we'll see that when God comes on the scene and Elihu before that, part of Job's problem was standing up for himself instead of letting God do it for him, and at times he's never antagonistic against God. He submits to God's sovereignty, but he's not quite getting it, but But yeah, that is definitely an important thing to learn from the book of Job is the schemes of the enemy. The Bible in the New Testament says, "Be aware of the wiles of the enemy," or the schemes of the enemy. And sadly, a lot of people are ignorant to the way Satan works. So
Kind of like the enemy's worst schemes 101.
yeah,
Because they're most likely some of his worst because he's allowed to do basically whatever he wanted.
yeah,
I think you hit it right on the head, Bob, is when we really start to let this work in us, I think the tables turn.
yeah,
And when that happens, I can't fight my enemies, I hate to tell you that. But if you talk to me man to man, or I'm trying to impress you, I'm trying to do things, I see my defects come out more when I try to do that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
my pride will show up, my ego will show up. Instead of just surrendering
yeah,
to kind of the truth of what it is. And you know, and what mine says here, it says, surely there are the mockers and mockeries around me, right here. And my eye dwells on their obstinacy,
okay,
insults, and what is it? Resistance. So that's me. That just summed that right up. Like, listen, God, you can have this, but don't touch this. And this is giving me the problem, but I'm more focused on this here. So for me, this is really teaching me a lot. Remember a few weeks ago, I had no idea what.
Yeah.
This just threw me off. But the more I think I look at my stuff, see, I have to have this inside of me. And as this is moving and doing this stuff, I can understand my defaults. I can understand my character defects.
yeah,
Wiser and stronger.
Yeah, but when I release it to where it needs to go, see, my life never had a place to where to take my stuff to. I want you to feel bad, so let me tell you about my son, or let me tell you about the. Do I reverse the tables and take it where it needs to go, and then I get this stuff?
yeah,
So that's what's it showing me. No matter how bad it is, I can't help it.
there you go.
But there are some things I can do. Now they're
Yep.
against what I'm used to doing, because what it does, it reflects on me. It takes away my pride, it takes away my ego, it takes away my stuff. And ego is easing God out, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't understand, but all of a sudden it's all coming there. I can't even defend myself in a conversation with somebody these days.
Yeah,
And it makes Satan's job harder.
oh yeah, for sure.
Well, it does, but also it affects my life a lot harder also, because I'm noticing I'm being ripped now, because the more that table turns and the more I turn it over, holy cow, boys.
Yeah.
He's real,
Oh yeah,
and, and I never believed that, because I ran the show.
yeah.
But my show, I didn't realize was, it wasn't even there, it was just the way I survived. And I think when we look at some of the ways that we deal and survive with things, man, I'm so ashamed of myself.
Yeah.
I promise you that today. I am so ashamed of myself on this. And here is death coming. What would our obituary look like if we wrote it right now? And I've been dwelling on this a little bit. How are people going to see me? If I'm godly, they're going to see me that way. If I'm 1 foot here, 1 foot here, and what's sad with him, he's all there, and there's nothing he can do, and my heart cries for him in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, this is. I mean, thanks, Job. This is another little bit of a testimony right here, because a couple weeks ago you were ready to throw in the towel. And this just proves the Bible true again. God is a rewarder of those that diligently seek Him. So even though you're on the ropes and you're ready to throw in the towel, you didn't. You kept coming back, and now the lights turned on and getting brighter, and God's ministering. So
Also, one thing I want to say was about how Joe was trying to defend himself, kind of a parallel, which I heard from a lawyer, is when you're in a court case, don't let your emotions or especially if you're right, don't let your emotions or stuff get involved with it. Just let the law defend you, and don't try to defend yourself. because that's when you're more likely to get yourself into a problem. But if you just let the law defend you, and just if someone tries to get you riled up with some emotional thing, you just turn them back to the law and say, this is what the law says, and let the
Yep.
law speak for you.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of the same way, like, let God speak on your behalf instead of yourself. Because if you try to speak for yourself, you're more likely to show where you are failing, and you're more likely to just give people reasons to not believe you.
And you know what? You know what that reminds me of? And that's a great analogy, to put it that way. And when people come after us, sometimes we want vengeance.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I wanted in the last 3 weeks because of something that somebody did to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to my union president, but God was talking through him. And I let it go.
Oh, there you go.
It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, you let God handle it. It's all good, you
I'm
know.
really comfortable with that.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
there and you're not, so hey, I win.
So and you know what? He'll have his day.
Yeah.
And the Lord says, vengeance is mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
And
So yay, Job.
Yeah.
and not meaning to get ahead, but the next verse
Yeah.
goes into this. But we as believers, as Christians, God is going to allow circumstance after circumstance
Yep.
until we learn.
Yes.
Until we learn this concept. Let God defend you. You know what? We are not even to argue with other people. That is of the old nature. And now the thing is, somebody may say, but if I don't speak up, then I'm being negligent, or I'm being this or that. You do it God's way and just see how your life is transformed, that you see, no, that is the old nature. That's how I fix things in the old way. But I'm a new creation, and God, He fights my battles for me, and I focus on worshiping Him and speaking only good or calling out to Him. And it's like the Christian life, we are not to pick up the axe or handle it ourselves.
It kind of, to me, that kind of depends on the situation. If you go to him one-on-one, discuss the fault. If he receives it,
It's kind of
then
like in the body of Christ,
Yeah.
there is room for
Well,
doing it with a format.
and
But
for me,
a
it
lot of
depends
these
on-
other things are let God step in.
yeah, for sure. But for me, it depends on the scenario. For me, like I said, one-on-one, you follow Matthew 18.
Right.
If somebody is
But that's only between two
publicly, yeah,
believers.
if somebody's publicly teaching heresy, the example that I go to is Galatians chapter 2, where Paul got in Peter's face and rebuked him in front of everyone because Peter was separating from the Gentile believers.
Yeah.
And so there's a big crowd of people, and the apostle Peter is at fault. And who knows, if Paul hadn't gotten in his face, we may have today still Gentile congregations and Jewish congregations. So there's a time and a place.
I think the difference
For-
in that situation is that you've got believers, and this is about doctrine, and and leadership needs to address things. There is room for that, but it's kind of like when you feel an attack on you as a person,
Yeah.
as an individual, or as a people. Then it's time to pray.
Yeah.
Then it's time to do spiritual warfare. And so in that way,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
there's definitely a
And
distinction.
definitely a distinction there.
And
So
also, And also, if people are attacking you as a person, like especially for being Christian or something like that, then we should rejoice because we're kind of worthy to be to suffer for
His name.
sake.
Yep.
But like if someone's attacking like a doctrine or something like that, and if it's the right setting, then we should defend the faith as.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So-
if it's personal,
Yeah. Just
then
leave that
it's
in
kind of
God's
leave it
hands.
be. But also, don't give people reasons to attack you personally.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, all right, next section, 3 through 5. Somebody want to read those 3 verses?
I will.
Okay.
Lay down now, put me in a surety with thee. Who is he that will strike hands with me? For thou hast hid their heart from understanding, therefore shalt thou not exalt them. He that speaketh flattery to his friends, even the eyes of his children shall fail.
All right. So here, Job's begging God to be his source and his support. I see this as another plea for the Messiah. He says Job is begging for a peace treaty between God and himself.
You can keep going, sorry.
Yeah, and so that I see is that first verse there is a plea for another plea for the Messiah. He says, "Put me in a surety with thee." Yeah, put me in a surety with thee. Who is he that will strike hands with me? Who can I go? Yeah.
My version says, God, give me some support. No one else will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine says, make a pledge for me with yourself. Yourself is capitalized.
Yeah.
Who is there that will be my guarantor?
Yeah. The surety, guarantor. I like that particularly because make a pledge with me, for me with thyself. It reminded me of when God gave the promise to Abraham. He couldn't make a covenant with Abraham because you got to have 2 equals to make a covenant. So God passed through the pieces himself, by himself. And so that covenant, that promise, that covenant is actually a promise, Covenant, that was what they call an unconditional covenant, which basically is essentially a promise. He's crying out again for help. He knows he needs help.
I was also just wondering, did you find out anything about strike hands with me? What that means, or
Basically, it's like a handshake. It's an agreement.
Mine says shake hands.
Shake hands. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, that's what that is. It's like back in the old days when people used to have integrity. You could say, "I'll do this," and you do that, and shake hands, and that was that. Now you got to have 6 lawyers each with 20-page documents. To get an agreement, and then there's always some loophole to get out, So, anyhow, yeah, people think that society's getting better and better. Ever since the fall, society is progressively getting worse and worse. And all you got to do is get your head out of the ground and the hole in the ground and look around, and you can surely see society getting worse and worse. So the surety, I'm going to take a look at Hebrews 7:22. You don't have to turn there. I got it printed out. Jesus is our surety, and he's the surety Job needed. Hebrews 7:22. By so much was Jesus made a surety of a better testament. It's not a collateral exchange. Like surety is a collateral. So I want a loan to buy a motorcycle. I use my house as collateral. Well, that's not what this is. Jesus does it all himself. He says, his trade is, I'll tell you what, let's make a trade. You give me all your sin and filth and vileness, and I'll give you my righteousness. As they would say, such a deal, you know? I can say that since Jesus was a Jewish man. Yeah, it's like a trade, but
Not physical.
it's not physical. You're trading your garbage for his perfection. I mean, who? I'm telling you, folks, if you're listening, who in their right mind wouldn't take a deal like that? Mm-hmm. If you don't know Jesus, it's time to get saved.
Colson, I was gonna say that not even the saying one man's trash is another man's treasure.
No, it's not even quite that. Not even quite that. So, but
because it's not another man.
no,
Right.
yeah, and yeah, exactly. So Job's crying out for the Messiah, and then in verse 4, let's see, Job says, "For you have hid their heart from understanding, therefore shalt thou shalt thou not exalt them." So Job says, God has impeded the understanding of his friends. Therefore, God will not allow their assault of him and his character to be victorious. Little glimmers here, you know. Job saying, you guys are so stupid. God has hidden the truth from you, and yet you come to me acting like you know everything, you know. And this reminded me as I was studying of 2 Thessalonians 2, 10 through 12, and it says, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them a strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned, who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. So Job says God hid the truth from them. They don't understand what they don't even understand what they're saying. God hid the truth from them. Yeah.
It kind of makes me wonder if these guys were really Job's friends, but God purposely hid the truth from them so they wouldn't realize that they're being used by Satan.
Possibly. I think God hides the truth from people, well, like it says in 2 Thessalonians, because they didn't love the truth. In 2 Thessalonians, because they received not the love of the truth. For this cause God shall send them a strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. So this is some serious stuff.
Well, they at least had to be blind to the truth enough to be willing to say all the things that they were, because even a not very nice person probably wouldn't torment a guy who's in his situation.
Yeah, well, no.
People who aren't just totally wicked.
So my take on it is that their heart loved, I think what a lot of people do today, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of Christians, they love their truth more than the truth.
Mine says right here, therefore you will not let them triumph
Yeah.
by giving them the verdict against me.
Yeah.
You know, so that makes a little bit of sense to me.
Yeah, Job knows he's going to be vindicated. You got this glimmer there because Job knows he's innocent. And Job knows God is righteous. And Job knows that some way, somehow, this is one of those glimmers of hope, that he is going to be vindicated. And in the same token, he knows that God has hid the truth from these guys, which brought me into 2 Thessalonians, which is, it's scary, but it's also very simple. Love the truth. I am 1,000% convinced if you love the truth, not what you think is true, but if you love the truth, you will never be deceived. I'm totally convinced that if you love what the Bible actually says, not what we think it says, or not what we think it means, if you love the truth, God's going to protect you. But if you love your truth, whatever that might be, and we all have them, we all have them. But that's why I say, whenever the Bible contradicts what I think, I know which one of us is wrong. So that's the position of safety. When I come across the Bible and I see something that kind of cuts across what I think should be the case, or a doctrine that I've been taught, I know which one of us is wrong. Now, maybe it's just I don't have the full understanding and I saw something a little different that complements what I previously understood. Maybe it's completely the opposite and I just totally got it wrong. But I know who didn't get it wrong, and that's the Word of God. And that is your position of safety. If the Bible says A, B, C, and you insist it's X, Y, Z, you're in trouble. And I don't know how God does it, but if you don't receive the love of the truth, at some point, God's going to give you a delusion so that you keep running in your lies. And in Thessalonians, it even goes to the point of that they might all be damned. Okay? Serious stuff. Serious stuff. But I also, back to Job, I see God's nature of mercy, because basically Job says God's hidden these guys' understanding, but in the end, God gives them another chance. All right, this is what you do. Go have my friend Job pray for you and you'll be okay. So I see, even though God can send a delusion, if there's any hope that of redemption, God's going to make that available too, So anyhow, that was another thank you, Job. From Job to Thessalonians, there you go.
Well, that's funny too that the Lord takes him back to Job.
Yeah.
He doesn't take him anywhere else. So this man that you've been doing this to, he's just he's going to get you.
He's your intercessor.
That's right.
Yep.
So you just keep hitting it, and you think you're doing something right. All of a sudden, now you got to go back to him and ask for forgiveness, or pray for me, or whatnot.
Eat crow.
So, yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, for sure. All righty. So let's see, verse 5, flattery. Let's see. He that speaketh flattery to his friends, even the eyes of his children shall fail. So flattery is smoothness of tongue, but also it, by definition, includes inheritance or portion. So Job is probably countering their vulgar accusations that his own unrighteousness cost the lives of his children. Because here in this verse it says the eyes the eyes of their children shall fail. So he that speaketh flattery to his friends, even the eyes of his children shall fail. So he seems to be turning the tables on their accusations that his unrighteousness brought the demise of his children, which Job is turning and saying, look, you guys you're just lying, you're speaking falsehood, and your kids are going to be in trouble, And if they hadn't gone to Job at the end, their kids may have been fatherless. Who knows what God's wrath may have done in that situation. So
mine says, he who informs against friends for a share of the spoils, the eyes of his children will also perish.
Yeah, so go ahead.
So I wonder if he's saying that they're there to try to wear him down so they can get his goods when he dies.
Well, they're trying. I don't know if they're trying to gain his property, because he doesn't have much left.
Yeah.
It doesn't say his
We
own.
don't know the ending.
Doesn't say his own home was destroyed,
And also
but
from what it sounds like, they were also wealthy.
Yeah, probably they were also wealthy. They were probably trying to inherit some of his good name. You know, that could be what they're trying to get out of this. But I'm glad you read that, because when I was studying, it does have that connotation as well. So,
I just want to say something. It's kind of, anyways, whenever there is mention of these friends and that connection, I kind of wonder if that word friend is kind of a broad reference. It's kind of like Job's associates, maybe because of his wealth. These were associates that he had.
Like acquaintances
Colleagues, maybe relatives or neighbors, or kind of like that whole span. And it kind of makes me aware that in general we should have that attitude towards everyone we know, that we should first of all have an attitude of friends. But then, as the relationship comes out, it'll come out the good, bad, and the ugly, whatever it's going to be, and that's why he can speak, in response to them as sharply as he does too. And they are, because they don't. We realize they don't know what they're doing or saying, and Satan is able to use them against Job. But it's like we just have to be careful to at first associate with people as friends, but we also know that we can't stay like close friends with people who are not after God. When we find out where they're at, okay, that's all I say.
yeah. So, yeah. I don't know what the definition of the word friend is. I didn't look that up. So, but yeah, we want to, wise as serpents and harmless as doves. We want to,
I'm sorry, say that again?
wise as serpents and harmless as doves, So, yeah, we want to respond properly,
Discernment.
Yeah.
Discernment.
Yeah. So, and I could go off on another whole angle with that, but I won't. So, all right. So on to 17 verses 6 through 9. We're going to see Job's flicker of hope again here. Somebody want to read that one?
I'll read it.
Okay.
But he has made me a byword of the people, and I have become one in whose face men spit. My eye has also grown dim because of sorrow, and all my members are like shadows. Upright men are astonished at this, and the innocent stirs himself up against the hypocrite. Did you want me to continue?
No, it's 9. Is that the end of 9?
No, that was
Oh, yeah, one more.
9.
One more, yeah.
Yet the righteous will hold to his way, and he who has clean hands will be stronger and stronger.
Okay, so we're going to, as we go through these few verses, there's some glimmers of hope from Job. So verse 6, he has made me also a byword of the people, and a byword is basically a satire of the people. So he's Job's life is a laughing stock in front of the people. Job's humiliation is complete. Literally, the last part about spit in the face, literally an object to be spit upon in the face, by definition. So Job's a laughing stock. He's completely humiliated, and an object of being spit upon is what that verse is saying. And so basically, it seems he's come to the end of his rope. His he can't be any more humble, because of the result of his humiliation. It's much better to humble yourself in the sight of the Lord than to be humiliated because of pride or arrogance or whatever. Not that Job brought that on himself, but the end result is the same. One is kind of voluntary, the other is, involuntary. You brought it on yourself somehow. So Job is humbled. He's been humiliated. He's humbled, and basically the humiliation is complete. He's a laughing stock. And in verse 7, mine eye also is dim by reason of sorrow, and all my members are as a shadow. So probably a reference to Job having vision problems. Probably somewhat due to incessant weeping, probably due to boils, which were from head to toe, or head to the bottom of the foot, worse than head to toe, head to the bottom of the foot. I mean, if it's head to toe, you can probably still walk somewhat comfortably. If it's head to the bottom of your foot, So it's probable or possible, at least, that his eyesight's been affected by his deep grief and bodily issues, with the boils and that. And then his body parts, which should be solid and well defined, are like just shadows. It's like, how's the saying go? I'm a shadow of the man I used to be, or something like that. Well, in Job's case, that was pretty literal. I don't know if I got the saying right, but basically, again, it's poetic. Poetically speaking of his total surrender and kind of I'm done. And then,
In my translation, it says, my eye has also become inexpressive because of grief, and all my body parts are like a shadow.
Yeah. So,
Inexpressive. I wonder if I don't know what that means, because a lot of expression, the facial expression, is through the eyes.
Yeah. Well, King James says dim, so it's basically the eye is probably not. His eyes are probably not giving any kind of indication, of certainly not any kind of indication of life, but almost maybe he's so bad off now that you can't even tell the anguish. Yeah. So, yeah.
I can't imagine what he looked like.
Oh, which probably brings us to another prophetic of Christ. Job probably almost didn't look human, and after Jesus' beatings and whippings, the Bible says he was almost unrecognizable as human.
His flesh, his bones.
Yeah. So, I mean, there we go, and maybe another little bit of a behind-the-scenes prophetic connection. I wouldn't build a doctrine on it, but I wouldn't throw it out either,
And they spit on Jesus too.
Yeah, and they spit on Jesus too. So, if the Holy Spirit ministers something to you, don't throw it, as long as it's not contrary to the Bible, don't throw it out. Again, I wouldn't use it to build this as a doctrine, but I certainly could testify and say, hey, as we're going through the book of Job, the thought came to mind. Job was spit on and beaten, and his body was beyond human recognition, and reminded me of Jesus being beaten and his being, So I certainly would testify to the Holy Ghost ministering to me through it in that way. So again, just being careful to take it in context and minister it, use it properly.
Also, at least according to Job, if it was the first book written, according to Job, it'd be the first biblical record of a proverb.
Yeah,
It says, "But he
Yeah.
has made me a proverb among the people."
yeah. Here says proverb, byword. So, yeah, could very well be. I have to look that one up and see if it's the same word as in the Proverbs. You know, I did look up the word for definition. Did I? Thought I
Byword?
did. Yeah, did I? No, maybe I didn't. Oh yeah, satire.
Yeah.
So, so it could be a different word.
Satire.
Yeah, it was a mocking. It was a laughing stock.
Um,
You know, just like if you see some of the satires online, they're plays on the plays on the truth, but you're supposed to laugh at them.
Puns.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So, all right. Verse 8, a moment of faith. Upright men shall be astonished at this, and the innocent shall stir up himself against the hypocrite. Job says the righteous are appalled at the way the ungodly treat the godly, how his friends are treating him, and he is innocent of what they accuse him of. So that's kind of what he's saying there. Upright men will be astonished at this. At what? Well, how they're treating him, and innocent men shall stir himself up against the hypocrites. What you said earlier. There's a time to stand up, for yourself, And
So this is kind of pointing to like later on in the book, the upright will be appalled at this. I don't know exactly, like it doesn't really say, as far as I'm aware in the book, how Elihu, I think it was, what kind of his attitude was, but it certainly seemed like he didn't believe the same thing as these guys.
No, he's definitely appalled. He's appalled.
Didn't he defend?
He defended Job. He also rebukes Job. He doesn't defend Job's friends at all.
Right.
But he's against them. But he does defend Job a bit, and then he kind of also rails against Job for certain things as well. So my other little note here is and he is innocent of what they accuse him of. Job is not completely innocent against God. Mm-hmm. No one is without Jesus. So, but he's innocent of what they accuse him of.
I'm just wondering, does the book say what things God did? In what ways Job was wrong?
Yeah, Elihu touches on it, and then God has 2 or 3 chapters where
Does Elihu say similar things to what
God
said?
Elihu seems to roll out the red carpet for God. And there's some phrases in Elihu that when God comes on the scene, similar phrases are used. So we'll see there when we get there. Yeah.
I just thought of something. It seems like God was waiting to see what everybody said to know what to do with them.
Yeah. Well, God knew, but he was exposing them to each other, to themselves. I mean, if they hadn't been allowed to talk, God could say, "Well, I know what you were gonna say, and you're an idiot." But since they're allowed to talk,
Job got to tell them how much of an idiot.
Job got to tell them what kind of idiot they were, but then God also, says the things you said weren't about me or were not correct.
Part of his plan to let them
hang themselves, so to speak.
And that one thing that comes to my mind that I feel like I've come to recognize a little bit better than I used to. That God pretty much, he comes in last minute. It's like he's coming, and we gotta just remember that and not give up. But he's gonna come in last minute, not because he's like a human being, lazy or negligent or tardy. No, he's going to let everything happen that he wants to happen first, and then he's going to come up
In his time.
and show his faithfulness and his goodness. But we got to remember that, because otherwise, when things start to go differently than we were hoping or expecting, we got to realize God's not done yet. He's not done with, letting them do that and exposing all kinds of things and working in my life but he's going to come. He's going to be there, and so it's going to be okay in the Lord.
This is, I don't think that you've probably looked this up yet, but it would be interesting to see if we know, or if people know what these different guys' names mean.
Yeah, we looked it up early on. Eliphaz was something like God of gold, and
I think she has it.
I have it. Yeah.
okay,
I had studied this years ago. The first name means God, his strength. The second is son of strife, and the third, little bird.
yeah, okay. So
What about Elihu? And
I didn't look that one up yet.
do we know what Job means?
He needs to get a job.
Job.
No,
He's gotta go
I
get
can't recall. I did look that up at some point, but
Job,
Blue Letter Bible,
how do you spell that?
persecuted. Job means persecuted.
persecuted,
Elihu. How do you spell that one?
Elihu.
Elihu.
Yeah, she's looking it up.
I'll just see.
Yeah, that
So-
was that. I had other notes as to the names and stuff.
Yeah. All right, while you're looking that up, we'll press on. Verse 9 says,
My God is He.
My God is
My
He.
God is
Uh-huh.
He.
Okay, that's a good name.
Well, so he was
From the Hebrew.
defending his God.
Yeah,
Literally, my God is He.
there you
Do they
go.
all have Hebrew names, or
I think they're all Hebrew
Elihu.
names, I think.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, that's when.
I can't recall.
Like that, his strength.
So, in verse 9, the righteous shall hold on his way, and he that hath clean hands shall be stronger and stronger. Job says he will be vindicated and grow stronger and stronger. He will not agree with the lies and accusations of his friends. He knows he isn't guilty of their charges, and God will vindicate. So these few verses are a bright glimmer of hope in Job's case. And the last section,
also verses like that where he's saying like the righteous will like get stronger or things like that. It's kind of also sort of in a way kind of like a challenge, like, hey, whoever is right is going to get stronger, so we'll see who.
Yep. And there is like biblical precedent for that kind of wait and see thing. One of the things about prophets is you'll know they're true if their words come true. So one of the ways of knowing a false prophet is if what they say doesn't happen. A little bit of hindsight on that, but
I am aware of a situation that an acquaintance of mine from back home is in a real predicament. He is accused of something that is not true at all, and he is on a level that he is. It's gone into the courts and all kinds of stuff, but he is standing on the truth that he has not done what he's accused of, and so his court case could have been completed, but he had to plead that he had committed this crime. And so, but by pleading that, no, I am not guilty, the whole thing has dragged out so much longer, and it's really taking its toll on him. And he's a strong guy in general, but it is taking him down. But praise the Lord, he's a Christian, and he's turning to the Lord. Of course, it's affected his wife and his kids, they're all kind of grown up now, but his life has really been broadsided, and it'll never be the same. And God's got to come through for him, because it's kind of like the whole community, his colleagues and all, they are all against him. But he,
If you admit you're guilty and you're not, you're a liar.
but he says, I just can't do that, even though it's really messing me up. But anyways, I just thought of him in light of all this extreme that Job is going through.
You're not talking about Donald Trump, are you?
No.
No. Okay.
No, she's not acquainted with Donald Trump. My oldest son almost was in a singing choir he was in a singing choir that was tentatively going to be singing at the White House, theoretically with Trump there, but that didn't happen. So anyhow,
Mom, unless he already is, maybe you should recommend him the Book of Job.
yeah. Recommend Job to him. All right, so the last section.
Oh, I see what you mean.
The last section, 10 through 16, we flip back. Job's struggling again with hopelessness. And I mean, with what he's going through, I think it's not unimaginable that it could be a back and forth.
The heading on this 17
Yeah.
is Job ponders the grave.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Again,
So here we are again. So he says, but as for you all, do you return and come now? For I cannot find one wise man among you. I do too.
I love that.
I do too. Why do you guys open your mouths? None of you has any wisdom. Job returns insult for insult. In this way, Job may have been one of the places Job was actually wrong. But I still love that he said it, And I'm not sure. God's not against sarcasm. When we see God come on the scene, he gets pretty sarcastic later on. So
And there's also obviously
Elijah. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another one of my favorites. Elijah. Yeah. I cannot find one wise man among you. My days are past, my purposes are broken off. Verse 11, even the thoughts of my heart. So Job returns to dwelling on the hopelessness of his situation. Basically, he's saying, my life is behind me. I have no purpose for living. Not only should I physically be dead, but my thoughts are hopeless too. So that's how I summarize that verse. And then 12, they change the night into day. The light is short because of darkness. Job longed for death. He wanted to escape his perpetual misery of night suffering.
It could also be kind of a hint towards blindness.
Yeah.
Or at least being in some sort of dark space.
Yeah.
And blindness.
Yeah. Could be a physical hint there as well towards eyesight issues.
Or it could be like dark because maybe like a cool, dark room made us more comfortable, possibly.
Yeah. So I pulled out from that. I went and looked at Matthew 6:23, where Jesus says, "But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee is darkness, how great is that darkness?" So, not that Job is evil, but if the only light in him is darkness and hopelessness, how great is that darkness? Now, fortunately, we saw that he did have just a flicker of light. So Job is not completely hopeless, but he does have his moments of hopelessness. And so pretty much that would be, if your only hope is death, and that's your light of life, and he's in a position where he wonders if there is something after death, if that's your only light, it's pretty bleak.
Well, so fortunately for him, even though he struggled with it, it wasn't his only light, because he also has the light of, I think in the last chapter where he says, my go between your mind
Yeah.
is in heaven.
Yeah.
So he believed it, and so
It's-
fortunately his light, he did
Yeah.
have a greater light. That
So,
he had.
We're seeing moments, you know. He's got these very brief moments of brilliant light, but then prophetic of Messiah, but then he's got a whole lot of moments of deep, dark, dire straits.
And at times where he's just tired of the other
Yeah.
guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's tired of the guys since they started speaking.
Okay, so the light of Job's friends is, if the light of Job's friends is the best they can offer, what darkness are they in? If they're offering the best of the best that they got, anyhow, that's pretty pitiful.
Yeah.
So in verse 13, if I wait, the grave is my house, I have made my bed in the darkness. So again, Job's hope is death. His grave is his house, his dwelling place, and his bed is darkness. Another low point for Job.
The way mine's translated kind of makes it sound like, I don't know, it doesn't sound the same the way mine's translated, kind of.
So what's
It
it say?
says, if I hope for Sheol as my home, I make my bed in darkness. Like, it's sort of like saying, if I make my hope, like, if I choose to do that, then I'm making my bed in darkness. Like,
Yeah, I think the context of it is that he's hoping and waiting and hoping for the grave. I mean, because it says that essentially in, I think, the next verse. It's pretty bleak. The next verse he says, I have said to corruption, you are my father. To the worm, you are my mother or my sister. It's not. Job's in utter despair at this point.
Yeah, in mine he said he's calling to the pit.
Yeah, the pit.
His father.
Yeah. Yeah, so Job's most intimate connections are the pit, his father, and the worm, his mother or sister.
Maybe it's because they've already deceased.
Could be,
And so
yeah.
So he's saying, I'm next.
Could be. I mean, that's possible. When I'm trying to think back, didn't, what's his name, Eliphaz say something about, much more aged than your father. So there may be, he could be past, this is poetic, he could be past, he could still be living. If he is, he's old. But yeah, Job is definitely longing for the grave,
So maybe his father has passed away,
Yeah.
and his mother, and even his sister.
It's possible, yeah. So his basically he's saying his most intimate connections are can't answer now. My phone almost never rings, folks, but and I usually, it's so seldom it rings that I don't even put it on Do Not Disturb. So, but anyhow, I will get a message, I'm sure. Usually if my phone rings, it's something rather important. But in any case, so verse 15, and where is now my hope? As for my hope, who shall see it? So where is my hope? Can anyone see any hope for me?
My version says, but can you call that really? But no. But you can't really call that hope, like the previous verse.
Yeah.
Can you? Does anyone see hope for me?
Yeah. So the context, of course, is critical. So the previous passages, does anybody see any hope in that?
So he's hoping to die.
Oh, yeah.
But he's kind of in limbo. It's like God's not he's not slaying him, but he's got to go on and on and on and on with all of this.
Does he have good hope or bad hope?
Yeah.
Is it for good stuff or not good stuff?
Yeah. So we'll end with verse 16. Somebody read that, not in the King James.
All right. Will it go down with me to Sheol? Shall we go down into the dust?
Okay,
Shall we together go down?
go down into the dust.
Do you want me to read it? Because mine says hope, right?
Yeah, hope.
Will hope go down with me
That's
to
what
the
I'm
place of death? Will we go down into the dirt together?
Yeah, so he's so hopeless. He says, will hope go to the grave with me? Or will I even be hopeless in death? So when he goes to the grave, is hope going with him or is hope not going with him? He goes to the grave hopeless.
The thing is, as believers, that's what we should do. We should take our hope in God with us to the grave, if that's what it is.
Yeah, but Job's wondering if he's going to even have hope, and will hope go with me to the grave?
Yeah.
He's wondering if there will even be any hope.
Yeah, he's got it.
I don't really.
You just gotta hang
I have
on.
a footnote that I don't quite understand. Right in front of the very first word of verse 16, it has a footnote, and it says, as in LXX,
The Septuagint.
Hebrew, possibly, let my limbs sink down to Sheol, since there is rest in the dust for all.
Yeah, okay.
Don't really understand what that's
Yeah,
supposed to
I mean, it's a reference to the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament Hebrew that scholars use a lot to help link things together. It's a translation.
Well, he's saying that, let my body go into the grave where
Yeah.
I will rest.
Yeah, well, he hopes.
Yeah.
But he doesn't even know if hope's going to go into the grave with him, so.
He hopes he'll be able to hope in resting in the grave, but he's not sure if the hope will go with him, or he can hope for, but he just has to hope for hope.
Yeah, hope for hope. So, all right, on that note, folks, see you, Lord willing, next week. Thanks for tuning in, and God bless.